Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be joining you via this recorded message. I really wish and hope that I'd hoped that I would have been there in the physical, but obviously I can't. So I bid you welcome. It's good to know that you're gathered at Gather office this morning. I do admit that this program was undeniably short notice. The decision to go ahead with it was arrived on Tuesday when we got the confirmation that we can make a presentation at the upcoming 2018 Lagos State Budget Consultative Forum on Monday, the 10th of July, 2017. And in policy advocacy and lobbying as veterans, that you all are involved in your various life impacting campaigns, you also know that it's crucial to spot new opportunities and seize the moment, and that is what we are doing. We believe gender responsive budgeting will change the life of women, girls, and children for good if committed to. So I thank you deeply for taking time out to attend. And I also would like to thank my incredible and flexible team members and partners that pulled this off. The ever dynamic Sister Ada Ajina Ude of GADA, Chris Hell and Ayo of Senday's team, Mr. Felix Abanabi of Tax Justice, and my able deputy at Arise, Kiki Adio, and our team Yinka and Molikat. Thank you all. I am Abimbola Junaid, the Executive Director of Arise Nigerian Women Foundation, an organization not bound by gender, geographical location, nor topic, but giving voice and visibility at the discussion table of society on a broad spectrum of inclusive measures. We represent especially the voices of the grassroots women, some who are in attendance at today's program, I'm sure. I am away at the moment doing what we do best, joining discussions on global policies such as the SDGs and the global financing realities of today. But I'm here with you, like I said earlier, in soul, mind, and spirit. My topic is on the Women's Coalition on Inclusive Budget, or any other name that you might adopt to call it after deliberations today. I will start by defining to us what gender equality is. It's the unequal treatment or perceptions of individuals wholly or partly due to their gender. It arises from differences in socially constructed gender roles, and luckily, we have gender partners in the house, including V4C. Maybe at some time we can book with them to take us through what gender roles are. And gender equality, on the other hand, is simply when women and men enjoy the same rights and opportunities across all sectors of society, including economic participation and decision making. And when the different behaviors, aspirations, and needs of women and men are equally valued and favored, then you can say we have achieved gender equality. How then do we ensure that both men and women enjoy the same rights and opportunities across all sectors of the society? The varied gender equity indexes, popularly known as GEI, there are many of it out there. They show us how, but I will lay emphasis on that of the UN based on the premise that all too often women and girls are discriminated against in health, education, and the labor market with negative repercussions for their freedom. It measures situations that are unfavorable to women by ranking countries based on three dimensions of gender inequity indicators, namely education, economic participation, and empowerment. When the aspiration of a country like Nigeria and the subnational state is low on these indices, that is where and when you find measures such as the social protection policy becoming a mandatory pro-poor growth plan. And I am sure Mr. Mohamed Okori of UNICEF will be happy to talk more on that at some point during this event. Excuse me. The second how to ensure that both men and women enjoy the same rights and opportunities across all sectors of the society is to ask ourselves, how do we fund all sectors of the society? How? How does the government fund its programs? I'm asking you. But of course, it's through the taxes and levies that both men and women pay to the state. This is mandatory of all citizens. Not through the taxes and levies that only men pay, but men and women pay taxes. Yet, it is common knowledge that government fiscal fiscal policy and wealth and its focus areas in terms of policy that they enact spend very little on women issues, and spending can have very different impact on women and men because of their different situations, needs, and priorities. And men and women and girls are part of the society. So it would just seem that society tends to relegate the issues of women to the background. Yet, women and girls world over, in particular, can't avoid paying a particular type of tax. Do you want to know what type of tax it is? Okay. Let me tell you about the tampon tax. This isn't to embarrass us women, it's just to put our case forward. It's to dignify us in a glorious way more than anything. It isn't anything to be ashamed of. Females, once we reach puberty and commence our monthly menstrual cycle, do you realize that it goes on in our lives for at least 30 years of each female? We need to use tampons each month. Some people a duration of 7 days times 12 months times at least 30 years, and it happens to all women. But for this natural occurrence that distinguishes us as women, do you know we pay taxes on the sales of tampons and other feminine hygiene products? It's called the tampon tax. There's no such equivalent or need or hygiene product in the case of men or boys. None. They may want to come up with, I will also have to buy condom. That's a luxury. Half of the population, women, constitute that, and we are paying taxes for a natural occurrence in us, and it still remains till today a very interesting global discussion of all times. But let me tell you what has happened in the UK around this tampon tax. The UK in its 2017 budget towards the special funding that it already earmarked for ending violence against women and girls, it earmarked 20 million from the budget. But in addition to that, the derivative from the tampon tax was 12 million. I'm not saying the total of the sales tax on the sales of tampons. I mean the derivative, that's a percentage that has been agreed that will be going to women's issues every year. This year, £12 million is going to women's charities as derivative tax of this tampon and other feminine hygiene sales. It's just a case of if we're paying for it, then we have to share that pot of money. And that is one way the government is realizing revenue. Do you know they would never stop? They would never turn that tax, tampon tax, into an exempt tax. Half the population going through this natural occurrence, and they pay taxes on the feminine hygiene products. It generates money. We still have more women than men. And Science hasn't found a solution to this natural occurrence in us. So the government will fight tooth and nail to ensure they don't turn it into an exempt tax. So the civil society out here has negotiated a percentage goes to women charities because it's about us. It comes from us. It's our contribution. And guess what? They won the case. And depending on the inflation of the markets, they also realized that the amount they get each year could differ. In 2016, it was 20 million from that tax. This year, 12 million. So I think that is one area that we should be looking at. Then at our own local level, glaring in the 2015 Tax Justice Research Report that was conducted by Tax Justice in Lagos on effective tax complaint system in Lagos State was the indictment of the state government when and where, with taxpayers' money, they decided to refurbish old public markets for new model ones without conducting an in-depth impact assessment, which would have highlighted the impact of such noble idea, but at the detriment of leaving the grassroots women poorer and at more risk. When newer stores are priced out of their reach, those traders, mostly women and mothers, who before the demolition could afford the former, now can't, and they can't keep their wares safe anymore and their children safe because before they were safe inside the stores. Suddenly now they find themselves selling by the roadside to survive and by the roadside with their children. Yet these women pay daily levies and taxes to the council, in addition to facing extortion from touts, to say the least. In yet another scenario is the recent Otodogbame riverine demolitions, which no provision of alternative housing for women, girls, and children made homeless in the process was considered by the Lagos State government. Yet again, the state has been indicted by the courts of violating the human rights of its vulnerable groups. Continuing, let's ask how many women have the financial capacity to benefit from government-owned housing schemes of today. Or perhaps the question should be, to what extent was a gender needs assessment done to arrive at what the number of housing units and what sort of housing units are being built? Is it informed by aggregated data of the needy for housing, affordable housing in the state? Affordable housing for a disaggregate of women, not just a lump of housing. We have in Lagos State all types of women: working class women, vulnerable women, rape victims, pregnant teenagers, women leaving shelters for domestic violence and now rebuilding their lives, or even women living with disabilities, widows, single mothers, elderly, grassroots women. So you see, our argument then is, since men and women make up society, and both men and women pay taxes, it is only fair to demand that the distribution of this commonwealth takes into cognizance the gender needs and aspiration of all. The era of governments with the notion of one general budget fits all is over, and its narrow spending priorities to just limited areas of the sector. This can't continue. That would only keep half the population behind poverty lines. Poverty already wears a female face. And that brings me to why we are here, why we are launching the Women's Coalition for Inclusive Budgeting. To achieve gender equality Goal 5 of the SDGs. This Goal 5 has its indicators. It requires funding to carry out. Raising the funds require new thinking and strategy. Simply put, if the indicators are not budgeted for, it cannot be attained. So yes, gender-responsive budgeting is crucial, now more than ever. It is to beckon to gender equality stakeholders to advocate for gender-responsive budgeting and together we hold governments accountable on all forms of public expenditure and methods of raising money from a gender perspective, like the tampon tax derivative that I mentioned earlier. What are we clamoring for? We're not clamoring for a separate spending budget. Neither are we saying we want a budget which spends the same amount on women and men, but budgets which recognizes the different situation and needs of men and women and aim to promote gender equity. The ultimate aim of the coalition would be to promote gender-sensitive budgeting institutions in our society. Another crucial aspect of the Women's Coalition on Inclusive Budgeting is to build women's capacity on budget participation. Many of us don't know how to be a part of the budget discussion. So it's high time we build our own capacity. We have to carry out analysis regularly. We have to monitor and track government policies and spendings. And we need to develop a database of local community ambassadors as budget participation at the grassroots till all citizens, young, and old, are aware and involved in budget monitoring. Then we will keep having the same government that would spend the money like they wish to. And usually it is not about us. That is why our very first task is what you're doing today. To scan across all sectors in Lagos State and come up with priority areas where the 2018 budget must be gender responsive. And I think the housing crisis and shelters for women fleeing domestic violence is one area. And the area of security of our schools, our children being kidnapped, that remains a pressing need right now. It should be prioritized. But of course, I believe we have the experts and intellectuals in the House, and I believe you do justice to that and raise a position paper, which Auntie Ada will help to deliver at the 2018 Lagos State Consultative Forum on Monday, the 10th of July. Please, if you can go along with her, please go, attend, support her, and be there as a citizen that wants her voice to be heard, and especially because you're a woman. This coalition is expected to be agile. We have to be proactive if we really want to make a difference. So Kike, at this point, I would expect that you distribute the membership form to those who want to be a part of the movement. That would be great. We don't want to force anybody because we want people that are dedicated. Tell us what areas you want to be a part of, and we'll be happy to have you. Nothing is small in the knowledge you can contribute. I also want to say to our distinguished partners, DFID, UNICEF, Dawn, MEPB, supporting us today with your presence. We value and appreciate you. We shall be knocking on your doors very soon. Please leave it open to warmly welcome us as we join hands together with you and the rest society to take our state and nation forward. And to all you participants, I want to also crave your understanding and ask you to please overlook what gaps there might be in our planning and execution of this event today. Our logistics might not be to the usual pristine of such events, but do think about the legacy of the sacrifice as a landmark achievement to the future of gender responsive budgeting in Lagos State to begin with. Many are called, but few are chosen. At this point, I'd like to say thank you for your time. And so, yes, I wish you a fruitful deliberations by the end of today. But just before I go, in other related matters, ending violence against women and girls is everyone's business. If you're a perpetrator, I would beg you to stop it today, so that the long hands of the law does not catch up with you. Because then there will be no mercy. And if you're someone that sees it, hear it, and know that someone is being abused, please report it. And if you're the victim, if you're going through it, don't keep quiet. Step forward. Seek help. Let us all do our bit today. Once again, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy. Bye.